Recording in
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there is no such thing as coincidences or mistakes. And we are here to share our life lessons on that with you. My name is Deb Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Doyle. Hi, Deb. It's been a minute.
I know.
You
I
were
know.
away all week last week, and then you didn't feel good.
I was very sick. I came down with a terrible head cold, but that's
Mm.
okay. We were away for the weekend. We went to that seminar for Dr. Brian Weiss in New York at the Omega Center, which was amazing. So one of these episodes, I'll talk a little bit about what happened
Mhm.
there. Um, so that was a lot of fun. And then I
I
just
have,
got home
no,
and
go ahead.
I just picked something up while I was there and was a
Mm.
sicky poo for an entire week.
I have been to the Omega Institute. It's something spectacular. It really is like amazing. I mean, the accommodations are, it's not like being at the Ritz, but
It definitely is not.
they
It
get some great people though.
That was the thing. The energy there was so relaxing and you're just because there was 525 people at this event. So imagine sitting in a room with that many people, all like-minded, all kind of there to experience spiritual growth. You
Hmm.
can't help but just be lifted up by all of that. So it was really cool. Um,
It's awesome.
yeah. And talk about like coincidences and all of that. There was a lot of synchronicity with people that I never even met before. That was just really cool. So I'll share
Very
some of
cool.
that. Yeah, I'll share some of that on a different podcast. So
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah,
So last time we actually got together, or actually, I don't even know the last time we got together, but the last um conversation we uploaded was about, kind of keeping your circle small and what does that look like to you and, being attracted. And I think it was in preparation, it was right prior to you going to the Institute. So we were talking about, what it feels like when you're in like with like-minded people and things like that. And um But, I find, which is great. And, I think we had some really good feedback on that episode. Um, and what we posted, really like spoke to people in
absolutely.
regards to, just, keeping your circle small and it's, or and being able to be yourself around people and things like that. But, it's interesting because in putting that up there and sort of looking at things and looking at some comments and so forth, things shift a lot. The people, let me put it this way, the people that sometimes you often hold in your inner circle in your 20s and 30s and maybe a little bit into your 40s, depending on when you had kids, to what we are now kind of in midlife is sometimes really different. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's the same. And you keep those, two or three people, and it is ride or die from the day you met to the day you die. But there's other times where, that kind of shifts, you
Yeah.
know, or, it changes because one person's grown in a different direction or the other person has is in a different life stage than you are, and it's hard to find the common ground, I guess, that brought you together in the first place.
Mhm.
Have you had any types of experiences like that lately? Or, I mean, I get people say 50s midlife, which
It's not, and I was
it's
gonna say
really
like
not. I
we're
mean,
we're
and
in the
midlife doesn't have to be halfway through.
Yeah. I mean, because we're not living to 110. I don't feel like that I would want to live to
No, but I also don't feel like I'm on the back half either, though. So let's get that one
um
thing straight.
well, if we look at the numbers, we are on,
Okay,
okay.
that's just chronologically.
Yeah, but
But like, uh,
I know, honey. I know it's really hard to swallow that, but that's what makes it even more important that we understand that who we surround ourselves with in this time of our life is really, really important
true,
because
very true.
we got no time for nonsense or misalignment or
Yeah,
drama or anything like that. And as far as relationship shifts, there has been a couple people in my life that have shifted closer or shifted further away. And it's a lot because like one of my close friends, she has her daughter just had their fifth baby. So she's needed, her daughter's a stay-at-home mom. And so she spends a lot of time with her, helping her with the kids. And then she's got two other granddaughters that are in their late teens. And so she's needed elsewhere. And so there's not that time to sit by the pool and chat and take up that kind of time anymore, which
yeah.
which is fine. And I miss that friendship, but I understand. And I almost feel like in a situation like that, it's like the friendship is just put on the shelf. It's not thrown away, it's just on hold for right now
Hmm.
because I don't have any grandkids. I have more time, more freedom, and more time. My thank God Hunter is healthy, so it's not like he needs me. My parents are doing
Right.
great. So, but there's other friendships that I have had for years that you know that have shifted because of different. mm, I don't know. I don't want to say different thought processes, but I'm very, very much aligned and involved in my spiritual growth right now. And that is very important to me. And some people don't understand that. Um, they
So
think,
how do you differentiate between something like that where you know that this person just has no grasp of where, what you are cultivating for yourself and what you're exploring and what you want to learn, differing from why wouldn't you put that on the shelf? What's the difference?
um, well, I will say that, and I'll give an example. So I was with this person who our friendship had shifted a while ago. Probably within the last year or so. But so we weren't in touch as regularly as we had been before. And it was just life things. But we recently did sit down and have dinner together, and I shared with her an experience that I had with um, my spiritual advisor, who also is a medium. And she shared some information with me and I shared it with this woman, and I could tell it was, you always know when there's not a believer because you get kind of like a uncomfortableness and a little bit of an eye roll. But I'm just like, I don't know. I believe it. I have seen things that prove to me that there is some people can connect with a different realm. So, anyways, the dinner went fine, but then she sent me like this meme later on, and it was like making fun of what I had shared with her. And I thought this doesn't feel good. It
That
just,
does, yeah, that would not feel good.
and
Mm-mm.
so that right there, I was like, okay, we're not aligned here.
Yeah.
And it
And
would be
that's okay, I guess. I mean, it has to be, right?
okay, but it was a, yeah, it's totally okay. It's absolutely okay. But I would never poke fun at somebody else's belief.
Yeah, so that must have kind of hurt your feelings a little
It
bit.
did. It did. It really did. And I never mentioned anything. I never said anything because it would have all only been met with, oh, I was just joking.
Right.
I didn't. So I just kind of chalked that up to, okay,
Hmm.
different paths we're on right now. Um, and that's okay. Then that's that. But I won't hold on to something that really doesn't serve me anymore. And I don't
Hmm.
mean that in a mean way. I don't mean it like, um, oh, because they don't believe in what I believe in, that doesn't serve me anymore. Mm-mm. I can't be
Or
around.
you also don't mean that they're in a position to do something for you. So
Oh yeah,
that's not
no,
serving, that has nothing to do with it.
right, right. And I have noticed that since I started this really intense journey, I have shed some friendships. They've gone on the shelf. I haven't, lost friends or anything like that. But I am making this such a priority in my life that
Hmm.
I need to surround myself with like-minded people who I can learn from,
Right.
and um and if not, then I would rather be home reading a book about it than being around people who don't understand, where I'm at. So,
Yeah, I
yeah, so
get that.
I've had shifts and again, I think through all of our lives, we go through different phases. Like,
Hmm.
and you think at that time when you're in that phase, like, oh, these people will be in my life forever, and this relationship is going to last forever, and it's like chapters in a book. They just don't, and they change and they shift, and other people have to be brought into your life so you can learn things.
Right. I agree with that. I think I can't speak for men. I can speak for, on behalf of a lot of women in our age bracket. I don't want to say middle aged, but in our age bracket that get to a point. I'm in denial, okay?
Yes, you are clearly.
Let's just call a spade, all right? I am in denial as to how old I am. But I think a lot of women get to our age and just realize that they don't have time to waste on BS. And, they, even if they're, even if their journey doesn't resemble yours or mine or whatever, that they just don't want to waste time on frivolous bullshit, inauthentic crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where a friendship, a lot of friendships do shifts and a lot of marriages and relationship shifts too, because, you know, you're 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 in this marriage for a lot of people get divorced like when their kids go to college
Yeah. Because
because
they
you're
don't
like,
recognize the person that they're living with anymore, or they don't like that person anymore.
yeah, or it was just like you were so caught up in like advancing the kids and materialistic things or acquisitions or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't want to say that everybody who's married just wants to acquire stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But you're like, okay, well, the one commonality or the one avenue that was holding us together was launching these children.
Hmm.
So now you don't have the children. They're already launched, and you're like, holy shit. Like,
Hmm.
now what?
Hmm.
Right. And I think that holds true for a lot of female friendships is whether it was the commonality of the kids playing sports or, um, being in the same town with the kids the same age, you had these commonalities. And then, or there's also, if the split doesn't happen when the kids are babies, lots of times the split happens when the kids get older and, one of the moms stays a stay-at-home mom and the other mom goes back to work. And it's like,
Yeah.
you
Or even
don't
their
have as
kids.
much time to spend, or the time that you do have, I always found that the time that I had to spend was so precious to me that I didn't want to waste it on meaningless people or relationships,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And I think, well, it's different. Like when your kids were little, you were a part of a couple,
Part
So
of a couple and a working person.
yeah, you were running your own business, you were part of
Hmm.
a couple, you had a very, you know, unified family, where I was a single mom and people married couples don't really include single moms into their social act.
Yeah.
They don't. And it wasn't until much later in high school, it was actually when Hunter got sick, and after that, that people started inviting me to the parties and the this and the that, which I would rarely go to because, I-
Do you ever think it was because they wanted to get divorced and they wanted to try on single mom through you?
I don't think so. I think they really just
Kidding.
felt like, oh man, she could use some support and help.
Yeah.
And I want to, but I was always, I had to really focus on my recovery at that point. I really had,
Hmm.
so my free time was at AA meetings or with my sober friends because it's just different, it's just different. But so I would gravitate towards women who were single, and really there was two that I knew of,
Yeah.
and they're that had kids the same age.
And
Um,
so now that all of your kids are older, where are those friendships? Where do they lie?
Surprisingly enough, one of them is we're still very, very close, and the other one we talk regularly. Where the friends that were or are in the couple, I rarely speak to them. I mean, granted, I moved to Florida and I'm far away from them,
Hmm.
but aside from Facebook, I have no idea really what's going on in their lives. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I think, raising children on your own, you really connect with other single moms because you get it,
Hmm.
you know? Um, yeah. And even though like one of them is remarried, and the other one isn't, but is in a long-term relationship like I am, it just never changed. But um it might, when the grandkids come. It's like when you're
Yeah.
in your cup and then all of a sudden the kids come and it's different. But being in our 50s, there's a maturity that comes with that too. And there's a lot of not only maturity, but there's a lot of wisdom that we have
Yes.
created and since we were younger. And we want to, for me anyways, I really want to be surrounded by people that have more wisdom than I do, that can share with me their life experiences. And I can kind of, build myself from there.
Hmm.
But I'm also very happy to help those that are younger that need some guidance.
True.
But as far as friendship goes, like I was watching the Sex in the City.
Oh yeah, I've been watching that and
Uh,
just like that. That's so funny that you said that because I asked Olivia, my daughter, who's 28, are
yeah,
you watching just like that? Because she used to love watching Sex in the City.
yeah,
And she's like, no offense, Mom, but I can't really relate.
I know, I
I'm
know.
like, yeah, I guess you're right.
I I can't really relate either. I'm going to be honest. Not about their age, but about all right, so I know people are probably going to get really upset when I say this, but I got really annoyed. Like, to me, they're very cliquey.
Yeah,
They're cliquey.
they are.
And I get the whole friendship thing, like they've been together for so long, and but I got annoyed. I was like, I don't think that this is okay, like,
Yeah. Yeah, I
or
can see that. I can see that for sure.
yeah, like I don't think that Miranda is very protective and obsessed with um Carrie. And like
Hmm.
that, it's I don't know. I just got annoyed. I felt like we shouldn't be clicky at this age in our life.
That is very true. So, one of the other things that I have found, and I don't know, maybe it comes with the territory of, me teaching class and at some point earlier in my life being a trainer. And, I have learned the hard way that not everybody's your friend. You know what I mean? So like what I could, we talked about your inner circle, a couple weeks back, and it's um I have come to the realization, like, about the differences between acquaintances, friends, maybe people that you see socially, but you don't necessarily share life's journeys with, right?
And
And
you
then
don't
you
let them
have
under
those,
the covers. Yeah.
yeah, and then you have those like ride or die few people that are, that are just so authentic. They show you your authentic self, you show them your authentic self, you don't judge each other, it's, and you can also have the really hard conversations with those kinds of people, right? So I have, it coming to mind, other than, my daughter, I would say three females that I
Mhm.
can do that with. But when I ultimately stopped being a personal trainer, I falsely thought that a lot of my clients were also friends, and that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And I really learned the hard way around that. And that's where, there was some anger along with that realization. And I don't really know like who I was angry at. Of course, I'm sure I was angry at myself for feeling like I was, duped or fooled or whatever. Um, but looking back on it, I know that it was a necessary part of growth and understanding, you know, where to put people.
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And so they're the kind of people that if you run into, oh my God, how's everything? And you remember their kids' names and, you know, and, and so we'll run into somebody and my husband will say, well, who's that? And it's like, well, they're not really a friend. They're not really acquaintance. Like, and you just sort of like, oh, it's a person who used to X, Y, and Z. And, and they're not even really on a shelf. But as I have gotten older, I have been able to really differentiate with that. And there are some people who I don't speak to except for an exchange here or there. But when I hear from them or when they hear from me, there is an instant,
Connection.
still a connection,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like the three women that are in my, that I would consider in my circle are my people.
Yeah.
They are my people. And, as I've gotten older, and I said it earlier, is I have really come to the realization that I have no patience for just fluffy bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's have the hard conversations because so many people don't have the hard
Exactly.
conversations.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that go through life wanting to have that, but they have surrounded themselves with the wrong people, right? And they can't have that. And I'm telling everybody or anybody that's listening is you can have that, but it takes a really tremendously raw and honest conversation and look at yourself first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So I don't feel like I have had to shelve any relationships. I do feel though that I have learned a lot about the differences
yeah.
as I have gotten into middle age.
Oh, honey. Okay. Yeah, we are definitely going to work with you on that. There's no shame in being like, we're on the back nine right now. And that's okay because this is the most beautiful part of our lives. It really is. It really is.
It is. I am not saying it isn't. It is so liberating. It is
Yes.
so liberating to give yourself permission to only surround yourself with people who serve your higher purpose
Right.
and
Right.
who add value to your life. And it is and it's not like you have to say to these other people, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't want to be friends with you
No.
anymore. But, I guess what I could say is as I've gotten older, there's buckets. There's
Hmm.
buckets of people, right? Um, and I have been able over the course of time to understand that it's okay to have those buckets and not everybody deserves to be in every bucket kind of thing. Yeah, you know what? I am good with being 57. It just is. I really am.
We're gonna get to 60. You're gonna be like, I'm still in midlife, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, that means you're living till 120. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my mom saying when I turned 50, she's like, 50 wasn't bad for me. She said 55 was bad because I knew I was not going to live to 110.
Hmm.
She said, chances are I'm not living to 100, but it's there. Like people do it.
People do
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like, yeah. I
But
like
here,
to say that I'm like just sort of at like the water stop at like maybe the eighth hole. I haven't rounded it yet.
okay.
Mentally, anyway.
Yeah.
Mentally, I feel
Or
like
physically. Yeah. Because you're doing great.
both. Yeah. I mean, I feel, yeah.
I
I
mean,
guess too is
we,
like when we were younger and you used to think of 57, you're like,
yeah,
holy
I think,
crap, that's
no,
old. But it really is not all that old.
it's not. And every time we're gonna be like, we thought 60 was so old, and it's not. And then when we turn 70, we're gonna say the same thing. Well, I do want to say something about, life isn't perfect, so we do have people in our lives that aren't maybe the best for us, but we have to be there for them anyways. And
Mm-hmm.
and um and that's okay too, as long as you set some really strong boundaries, and you don't let
I
them
agree with that.
suck the life out of you because energy is the energy that you surround yourself with and the vibration that you feel
Mm-hmm.
internally is so important because that's what radiates out into the universe. So, and people that are around you at a low frequency, you're going to feel that.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
and some of these people you got to spend time with, and you can do that, but just remember to refill your tank after you spend time with people like that.
Well,
And
my therapist says to me, you have to meet those people where they're at.
Mhm.
So it doesn't pull you out. So you're just meeting them up to where they are at. And
Yeah,
it's easier to not be pulled down or sucked in or have your energy exponentially expended.
right.
Um,
But I've heard that a lot, like meet them where that, but I also feel like you can start there, but by the end of the conversation, try to lift them up a little bit.
true,
Because if you
true.
stay
I
where
think that
they're
there's
at,
also
you're
some
not
people out
growing.
there that are too blind, deaf, and stupid to be
Yeah,
lifted up.
yeah. But you can plant a seed. We can always plant seeds.
Yes, and you know what? And those people, and again, those people, here's the thing. I think in the past, I would have It would have been a very black and white. I would have been like,
Mm-hmm.
not for me, not gonna spend any time, boop, done. Like, or I would say, oh, I know them. They're kind of kind of a friend. And I think too, I maybe, I'm kind of coming to the realization that there's no need to, at this stage, label people
Mm-hmm.
in your life. You know what I mean? It's just there are people, unfortunately, as we get older, that we have to spend time with
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. Um, and yeah, it's funny because I have been sort of diving into that, meet them where they're at. And I read something the other day, and somebody sort of poked a little hole in that and said, well, what if that's not where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
What if that is not a good environment, or it's toxic for me to meet these people where they are, because it
Yeah.
damages, or it doesn't, I don't, doesn't damage it. I'm driving by what I need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that spoke to me. You know what I mean? Because, there are some people that, again, in certain stages of your life, that you keep in your life because of some commonality that
Mm-hmm.
holds you together. But it's, it, that it's not authentic. That you should not be meeting these people there. It doesn't feel good.
Right, right. Well,
And I think
it's
as
like,
we get older, especially as women, I'm not going anywhere that doesn't feel good.
right. But if it's a relationship in your life that you need to have in your life and you need to work on, you have to compromise. And if they're not able to hear you where you're coming from, it's just like talking to a toddler. There's only so much that they can really comprehend because of where
Hmm.
they are. And I'm not saying that people are, emotionally or any other way toddlers like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people have only had certain life experiences. So when you go and you try to have a conversation with them or talk about something that's really important, they're just not going to understand it because they've never been in.
Right.
So that's to me, when meet them where they are, that's to me what that's saying is like, okay, I let's try to have a conversation, but I need to shift what the way I'm communicating with them. Uh,
Hmm.
but by the end of this conversation, I'm hoping that they'll learn something that's going to lift them up. So we can eventually be at the same place and have those conversations with, or, it's in relationships, men are so different than women, right?
Hmm.
The way they communicate, the way they think, the way they handle disagreements, whatever it may be. So you can stay in your corner all you want, and they're going to stay in their corner. But if you meet them where they are and say, okay, he doesn't understand when this way that I'm trying to explain
Right.
something, but I know he's a very calculated thinker. He needs facts. He needs whatever it may be. I got to talk to him like that. To me, that's meeting somebody where they are, even though I
Agreed.
want to be there because I hate everything about numbers. But if that's the way that this conversation is going to happen, then
Yeah,
it needs to happen that way.
I
And it's
agree with that. Yeah.
all different layers about that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I get it. It's like, I don't want to meet them where they are. They need to come to me. Well, then we go round and round in circles.
Yeah. I mean, very true. Very true. It's just, it's an interesting concept,
Hmm.
because, my feeling is as we get older, we're not quite as, I'm not quite as black and white as I used to be. I do, um, appreciate the gray area
Hmm.
more than I ever have before. Um, but there's just, like, perfect example. I rather stay home than go out to dinner with a couple that I'm just not like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
eh, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I
I-
think that comes with age. I think it comes with experience. I think it comes with, being open and awake and understanding where you're headed, understanding what serves your higher purpose, right? And, choosing wisely from there, I guess.
yeah. So we talked about friendships shifting midlife or on the back nine and why that happens. And, the fact that we're life is fluid, we
Yes, very.
constantly changing and moving. And the beauty of it right now is that we can choose what direction we want to go in and who we want on our raft, and
Yeah. And I think the most beautiful thing is when a couple or friends can shift and change and explore, and there's no judgment from the other person. I mean, I think that's really just like the most beautiful thing in the world.
yeah,
I mean,
for
that
sure.
then you know that you found your people, right? Those are those friendships that never get put on the shelf. They're the friendships that fill our cups. They're the friendships that are easy.
I love the saying somebody's I don't know where this came from, but it says something like I'll believe in you until you can believe in yourself, or I'll love
Mm,
you until you learn to love yourself. Like, to me, that's the diamond of a good friend, you know.
yes,
Like, I know you're not okay today, but I'm gonna love
right,
you until you can love
right.
yourself again. And I've got enough
Yeah,
in my heart to hold you. Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
me too.
Well, we would love to hear from others, like if you had any experiences. I mean, I'm going to assume that most of the people that watch or listen or drop a like or a comment are around our same age, give or take. Um, yeah, we'd love to hear. Like, have you recently had to put a friendship on the shelf? Have you recently figured out that, some of the things, some of the friendships or people in your life, you've just sort of, it's changed, the dynamic has changed a little bit. And how does that feel? Right?
Yeah. And
You can email us.
if
Yeah.
you've had to get rid of a friendship altogether.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
And some, it's interesting because I think some friendships also just take a moment and then come back up again, you
Absolutely.
know? So you can email. We'd love to hear from you. I love when people make comments on our social media posts and look forward to listening. You could also email us at rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. And the and is spelled out. And I guess till next time.
Till next time. Namaste.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you. Bye, everybody.